Jacksonville Jaguars fans, welcome in to Duval Daily, presented by GenJag.com. I'm Jordan DeLugo. Thanks so much for being here Friday, November 21st. We still don't really know what's going on with the Jaguars injuries heading into this Week 12 matchup against the Arizona Cardinals. We'll get more information when the game status report comes out later today and probably do a show on that. In the meantime, after doing our full game preview earlier this morning, I wanted to go back to something that I discovered yesterday, which was really bizarre. And it's about Trevor Lawrence and turnovers. And so we're going to dive into that topic and just kind of a broader topic of how the Jaguars offense is performing, the passing offense, all those things, try to figure out where this thing is headed, if they're moving in the right direction, all that stuff. The point of this is not to pump up Trevor Lawrence or diminish what he's done. It's just to provide an honest outlook on how things are going so far. So, Trevor Lawrence and his turnovers. He's been, I believe, the most turnover-prone quarterback in the NFL since he entered it. A lot of that does stem back to year one, where it was an absolute disaster under Urban Meyer. But our focus is going to be on this year, the 2025 Jacksonville Jaguars. So really appreciate y'all tuning in. If you enjoy the content, please like and subscribe. You can also check out GenJag.com, pick up some new Duval gear, help support the channel. Look damn good while doing it. So just looking at Trevor Lawrence and turnovers this year, he's tied for the 6th most interceptions in football and the 14th most fumbles among quarterbacks. So obviously the fumbles, when you look at those contextually, one of those was leaping over against the Chiefs, and really not a bad fumble by any stretch of the imagination. Then you have the fumble at the end of the game against the There's a couple fumbles that really are, in my opinion, not a big deal. There's also a couple interceptions that are not a big deal. But the bottom line is Trevor Lawrence is one of the NFL's league leaders in interceptions, and he has still fumbled the ball, an average amount, slightly above average amount. So he's turning the ball over a fair amount this year. When you look at what he's done in terms of putting points on the board himself, he is tied for 15th among quarterbacks in total touchdowns with 16. His adjusted completion percentage across the entire season is 23rd in the NFL. He's 15th in passing yards. So no matter what statistics you're looking at, and you can get into the advanced stats as well, CPOE, all these different things. But by pretty much any statistical measure, Lawrence is not having a great year. He's been pretty much average, and some would argue below average. That's the stats. That's what the stats tell you. The eye test might tell you something different, and a deeper dive might tell you something different as well about Lawrence, his turnovers, and how they affect the Jaguars. So I do think he needs to improve his turnover rate. I think objectively, having the 6th most interceptions in the NFL, if you're not matching that with having among the league leaders in touchdowns, that's not good enough, right? If you're top 5, top 6 in the NFL in interceptions, you would also like to be top 5, top 6 in the NFL in touchdowns. And that's just simply not where it's at right now. In Lawrence's defense, he has had 4 touchdown-worthy throws taken off the board by drops. He leads the NFL in points taken off the board by drops. He has another 2 touchdown passes taken off the board due to penalty. That's 6 extra touchdowns right there. That would put him in the top 7. That would put him in a range that you would feel more comfortable with. Still, what has happened is what has happened. And you can't what if in this league. That's just not the way it works. Now, his receivers do lead the league in drops, and the team leads the league in penalties. Those are 2 things that really make it difficult for an offense, not just a quarterback, but an offense to stay on track. In each game that the Jaguars offense has faced an elite defensive front, the Jaguars offensive line, specifically the left tackle, has faltered. Unfortunate truth of the matter. The Jaguars running game for the most part, has been something they can lean on. It hasn't been there every single week, and they haven't stuck with it every single week. But for the most part, the Jaguars' running game and run blocking has helped out Trevor Lawrence and the offense, has helped out the team, has helped the team win games. On the defensive side of the ball, they've been very strong against the run. They've been very inconsistent, to put it mildly, mostly poor, really, against opposing passing attacks. All this to say, it is a team game, but folks do always want to look at the quarterback. And again, I found a really interesting stat when it comes to Trevor Lawrence and his turnovers this year. The Jaguars are 5-2 when Lawrence turns the ball over at least once in 2025. 5-2. When he turns it over multiple times, they're 1-2. It's 3 games with multiple turnovers, and they're 1-2. When he doesn't turn the ball over at all, which has also been 3 games, they're also 1-2. There's basically no stat that indicates that the 2025 Jaguars are more likely to lose when Lawrence turns the ball over. In fact, they have been more likely to win when Lawrence turns it over than when he doesn't. Part of this comes down to a stat that Daniel Griffith shared yesterday. Every single Trevor Lawrence interception has come when the Jaguars have the lead. When the Jaguars have been trailing, he's been much cleaner with the ball. That's just the facts. Is it he knows he can't afford a turnover, he's more dialed, or maybe he's less willing to put the ball in harm's way? Maybe a combination of those things. When he has a lead, maybe he feels a little bit less dialed. Maybe it's a little bit more like you can take a breath. Maybe it's more like, okay, we got this. But when you feel like you got this in the NFL, that's when you don't got this, unfortunately. When you actually look at the games the Jaguars have lost, and they've lost 4 games this year, has Trevor Lawrence and his turnovers been the issue? I think it's fair to say they've been an issue, that if Trevor Lawrence limited the turnovers, the Jaguars probably would have beaten the Bengals. They probably would have beaten the Texans. Was it the main issue? No. Was it an issue? Yes. Week 2 against Cincy, Jags receivers dropped the ball 5 times. And 2 to 3 other blatant lack of effort / focus plays by Brian Thomas Jr. led to critical incompletions and an interception. The defense couldn't stop Jake Browning and Jamar Chase to save their life. So was Trevor Lawrence and his turnovers a issue in that game? Yes. Were all of his turnovers his fault in that game? Absolutely not. That's a really wild one to go back and look at. Even with all the defensive issues, the Jaguars still should have won that game, and Trevor Lawrence in the clutch led them down the field. 3rd and 5, Brian Thomas Jr. drops a wide open pass that would have given them a first down and put them in position to win that football game. Again, not absolving Trevor, just providing the context of this game. Week 6 against Seattle, offensive line was horrendous. Defense gave up 20 points in the first 34 minutes of the game. They did settle in, but Jaguars offensive line just could not protect Trevor Lawrence or allow Travis Etienne, Bajal Tune, any of these guys to get it going in the run game. The Jaguars offensive line was dominated by the Seahawks defensive line, and I believe that was the story of that game. Week 7 against the Rams, certainly Trevor Lawrence with some inaccurate passes. Didn't turn the ball over. Drops, penalties, inability to cover on defense. All of these factors led to a blowout loss against the Rams. Against the Texans, Lawrence, defense, everybody involved had the Jaguars up 29-10 before the offensive line and the defense crapped the bed. I think the Texans game, to the point the Jaguars were up 29-10. After that point, do I put anything on Trevor? No, because again, in that final drive, he overcame Walker Little, and then he found Parker Washington to put the Jaguars in field goal range, and Chuma Edoga picked up a penalty. However, He was not perfect in that game by any stretch of the imagination. And he had multiple throws against, by the way, a defense that absolutely just dominated Josh Allen and the Bills. He had multiple plays that he should not have, multiple throws that he should not have made in that game. I'm absolutely acknowledging that. So, there's highs and lows, there's ups and downs, there's inconsistencies. That's for sure. There have been a lot of inconsistencies. He hasn't been as accurate as he needs to be, and he has made some boneheaded mistakes, and he has turned the ball over too often this year. Those are the facts. But when the Jaguars lose, it's usually less to do with Trevor Lawrence turnovers and more to do with other areas of the team faltering. Usually when Trevor Lawrence turns the ball over, he ends up making up for it and then some. And in every game that the Jaguars have lost outside of Seattle and the Rams, I should say, and two of the games that the Jaguars have lost, half the games the Jaguars have lost, Trevor Lawrence has put them in a position to win at the end. And you've seen other areas of specifically the offense falter. He has been clutch. Can't take that away from him. So, Lawrence done some great things. Jaguars offense done some great things. Not been consistent enough. And that's why you're 6-4 instead of 8-2. 7-3. I will say this. Since week 5, despite facing the Texans defense, the Chargers defense, the Rams defense, and the Seahawks defense, really good defenses, 4 really good defenses, Lawrence is in the top 10 in total touchdowns. He's tied for 11th in big-time throws. Now, his turnover-worthy play rate is a little too high as well, and a lot of that can be, traced back to the game against the Texans where he could have turned it over, throwing the ball to Caitlin Bullock. I mean, Derek Stingley made an amazing interception to turn him over. There was a couple other throws he shouldn't have made. His adjusted completion percentage has still been below average since week 5. And I go back to week 5 because that's after a month into this new system, this new regime, right? In my opinion, all of this just comes back to consistency, comfortability, getting things down mentally, and also having continuity and consistency in the receiving core and up front. This video isn't about defending Trevor or placing blame on him, but providing a realistic outlook of how things are going right now. And how are things going right now? Over the last 3 games, just found this too, Trevor Lawrence adjusted completion percentage is 77.5. That's the 7th best among quarterbacks over that period of games. That's pretty good. And the team's drop rate is 9.1, 10th worst. Prior to that, Lawrence's adjusted completion percentage was 70.6, 28th in the league. So he has taken a massive leap over the last 3 weeks in terms of just keeping the offense on schedule. And you've seen the offense put up a lot more points. The Jaguars also had the worst drop rate in the NFL at 11.9% prior to the last 3 games. So that has improved as well. In my opinion, the Jaguars' passing game is improving. Lawrence is taking steps forward. Still needs to improve. No question about it. I think Jacoby Myers has played a huge part in the improvement over the last couple weeks specifically. And I think the biggest X factors moving forward for the Jaguars and their passing game is Brian Thomas Jr. and Brenton Strange. You're going to get Brenton Strange back. Is it this week? Don't know. Is it next week? You would think at the latest it would be next week. So that's big. Brenton Strange is one of those players that can provide consistency, not only in the pass game, but in the run game as well. Just help the Jaguars offense on the whole, which is huge. Toughness, consistency, explosiveness, athleticism, power. He just brings it all. Guy you really want to see back on the field, right? And he brings a mindset to the field that really, I think, is infectious for the team. And then Brian Thomas Jr. If Brian Thomas Jr. comes back, when he comes back, is it this week? Don't know. Is it next week? Maybe. Can he play with more consistency? What is his role? I think it's clear now that Jacoby Myers is the Jaguars' top target for, moving the ball. I think Brenton Strange should be right up there as well. I think Parker Washington should be up there. I think Tim Patrick is starting to prove himself as well. What is Brian Thomas Jr.'s role? Do you just drop him in where Diami is right now and roll from there and see if he can be a field stretching threat for you? Do you try to feature him? I don't know. And that's a huge X factor. Because one thing I do know is if your top targets are Jacoby Myers, Brenton Strange, Parker Washington, and Tim Patrick, you're at least going to get consistent effort from those players. And more often than not, you're going to get results. They're good players. Brian Thomas Jr., the level of variance is so high, you just don't know what you're going to get right now. That's a huge X factor. Now, when you look at the upcoming opponents as well, I think that the final X factor for me is really outside of Trevor and just his decision-making and accuracy is, do they face a team or multiple teams that have dominant pass rushes? I think you look at the Broncos, and that's pretty much it. Cardinals have a pretty good pass rush. Josh Sweat's a pretty good player. Calais Campbell's a good player. The Jaguars should be able to find a way around that, in my opinion. They should be able to run the ball. Titans, Colts, Jets, those are the other teams on your schedule. I think that the one game you have circled as, is Walker Little going to absolutely crap the bed in this game? It's the Broncos. That's where I'm at. Where are y'all at? Let me know in the comment section below. Really appreciate you tuning in. If you enjoy the content, please like and subscribe. Y'all have a good one.